Ted and Alice had a terrible row about the house cleaning.
At the cinema, I always prefer to sit in the 6th row.
Would you please close the window?
The library is close to the school.
I always try to live in the present.
They will present the award at the ceremony.
They live in Japan.
The news was on live TV.
I'd like to read Murakami's new novel.
I read the news about the fire in yesterday's newspaper. 1A.
Row. I was furious with my husband last night and we had a huge row.
B.
Row. We sat in the front row of the theatre.
2A.
Close. Close the door when you leave.
B.
Close. The park is close to our house.
3A.
Present. I always try to live in the present.
B.
Present. I'd like to present our guest speaker.
4A.
Live. They live in the countryside.
B.
Live. We went to a live concert.
5A.
Read. I always read a good book on holiday.
B.
Read. I read a good book last month. With the trilogy 1Q84, Murakami's position as a master storyteller is confirmed. Despite its length of almost 1,000 pages, the novel was an instant success. In Japan, it sold over 1 million copies in 2 months. It enjoyed the same success when translations came out around the world. As with Murakami's other books, 1Q84 isn't easy to classify. The plot is original, and the characters, including a young female contract killer and a timid writer, are memorable. There are elements of fantasy, magic realism, philosophy, and science fiction. The setting is Tokyo, both real and imagined. Murakami is one of the most admired authors in the world today. He writes in many different genres. He writes fiction, novels, short stories, and non-fiction, which includes news reports and a diary which tells us about his experiences as a marathon runner, and essays. His work has been translated into more than 50 languages, and he's a writer whose popularity continues to grow. Murakami became popular outside his native Japan with the publication of Norwegian Wood. He has won numerous literary prizes and been nominated for many others, including the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2012. Murakami's fans will be happy to see his usual themes in the book: parallel worlds, characters from the past appearing in the present, characters who are never quite what they seem, as well as themes of murder, history, religion, violence, family ties, and love. I would recommend 1Q84 to existing Murakami fans and any reader who is looking for something a bit different. These days it is easy to read literature by contemporary writers from all around the world. When a writer finishes a book, and in some cases sooner, translators start writing versions in English and other languages. Readers can access books by best-selling authors from every continent. The latest best-selling author that has become famous all around the world is Haruki Murakami from Japan.
When did you first start writing?
Oh, a long time ago. When I was a child, I used to love writing stories. But it was at university that I started to get interested in poetry. One of my teachers invited us to a poetry reading evening, and we went along because we didn't have anything better to do. Jane Christie was there reading some of her poems.
Jane Christie?
Yes, she's an amazing poet. Her poems are full of hope and optimism. In fact, Jane is the writer whose poems have inspired me the most. We're great friends now.
How long did it take you to write A Poem for All Seasons?
About 6 months. I had a lot of the ideas together, but I needed to find a place where I could work in peace. I was sharing a flat with 4 friends at the time, so there wasn't much peace and quiet, as you can imagine. Then I got an opportunity to stay in Cornwall at an aunt's house. So I thought, great, no more excuses, it's now or never.
Which is your favourite poem from the book?
I think it's Cherry Trees. It's a poem which makes you think of spring. I wrote it for my mother. She loves cherry trees.
It must have felt fantastic to see your book in the shop.
Oh, yes, it was. At first, none of this felt real. Then when I saw the actual book, well, that was the moment when I knew I could be a writer.
I don't know how you can read on that thing, Paul.
Are you serious? It's better than a traditional book. And in the future, everybody will have an e-reader. Books, as you know them, are disappearing.
But the text is so small on those things, it can't be good for your eyes.
But the thing is, you can make the text size bigger or smaller. You can make it as big as you need it.
You're kidding. Show me.
Look, this button takes you to a menu, and you can make the text smaller, like this, or bigger, like this.
Good heavens. I didn't realise. That's great.
Yes, new technologies aren't all bad, Mum. You have to move with the times.
Maybe, but I'm not convinced. Technology is okay, I know that. But we shouldn't just abandon the old things. I'm sure books will be around for a long time. Paper books, I mean.
Well, I disagree. Paper book sales are already falling, and e-book sales are rising. The publishers are making changes in the way they do things. Bookshops are closing down all over the country. Libraries are opening up online for people to borrow e-books. Traditional libraries are closing down.
That's awful.
I agree, we should save our libraries, but we have to move forward, Mum. Things don't stay the same forever. Look at the newspapers.
What about them?
Well, sales are falling all the time as more and more people read the news online.
That can't be true. More people read the news these days than ever before.
You must be joking. People are informed, yes, but not from newspapers. Everyone reads the news online. It's better.
Why? It's the same news. How can it be better?
Well, it's updated every few minutes, so you get breaking news as it happens. And you get more sides to the story, of course. Look, I'll show you. 1.
How did you find me? And what do you want? You can't possibly expect me to go back with you. Not after everything that has happened.
2.
It says here, Mr. Paul Hammond and Miss Jessica Mills are getting married on Saturday at 3 o'clock in St. Jude's Church, Northgate. Getting married. It's here in black and white.
3.
I can't believe he's dead. I wake up in the morning and expect him to be there. But he isn't, of course. Nothing is ever going to be the same again. Not without Monty. He wasn't just a dog, you know. Don't ever think he was just a dog.
4. Is it? I thought so. It's Michael Rose, isn't it? I thought it was you. What are you doing in this part of the world? You're a long way from home. 5.
So a grandmother, at last! I was beginning to think it might never happen. I'm going to start knitting right away. I'll make something white. They don't know if it's going to be a boy or a girl yet, so...
1A.
I've bought a Ferrari.
B.
That's nice.
2A.
I went to school with George Clooney.
B.
Really?
3A.
We're getting married tomorrow.
B.
You're joking.
4A.
My grandmother's learning English.
B.
That's amazing. 1A.
I met Barack Obama last week.
B.
Really?
2A.
I've got tickets for next week's match.
B.
That's exciting.
3A.
I earn £1 million a year.
B.
You're joking.
1A.
I met Barack Obama last week.
B.
Really?
2A.
I've got tickets for next week's match.
B.
That's exciting.
3A.
I earn £1 million a year.
B.
You're joking.
Changing habits. E-books. Last weekend I visited an interesting festival in Wales, a festival to celebrate the e-book. It was the first festival of its kind in the UK, and I think it won't be the last. I went there to speak to people about the e-book revolution that is changing our reading habits so quickly. It has transformed both the way we access reading material and the way we read it. The idea behind this was to celebrate what people are now calling the democratization of reading. Almost everybody at the festival had some sort of e-reading device. I was interested to see so many people engrossed in their iPads and smartphones, Kindles, netbooks, laptops, and all kinds of other electronic devices. I wasn't surprised to read recently that figures show a Britain where e-books are growing in popularity, with people reading fiction, non-fiction, and everything in between. According to Welsh author and festival organiser Julian Ruck, the festival officially recognises and celebrates the most innovative, exciting and surprising medium to hit the publishing world since Caxton and Gutenberg. Unlike other areas of technology, the use of e-books is increasing among all age groups. The latest research shows that older readers are just as keen on e-books as younger ones. In fact, according to a recent survey, 6% of over 55s own an e-reader, compared with 5% of 18 to 24s. The preferred e-readers are the Amazon Kindle, 47%, iPads, 31%, and Sony readers, 14%. The appeal of an e-reader, to be able to access an enormous collection of reading material, plus reference libraries with online encyclopedias at the click of a button, is easy to understand. Last week's festival was about promoting literature to everyone in a digital age. But while many are excited about having a new medium for books, some publishers are concerned about the changes they need to make in their industry. Initial worries about the disappearance of the book in its paper form have been replaced with a more optimistic approach, as there are so many advantages to electronic reading. For example, production costs for e-books are much cheaper, and there are no storage costs, since around 3,000 books fit in an e-reader. One local bookshop owner I met at the festival was delighted at the opportunity to provide Welsh language literature for a new wave of e-book readers all around the world, with zero delivery costs.
1.
It's the first time I've written a scary book, but it's quite good fun. I don't know whether zombies are still in fashion, but my readers are the ones who will decide.
2. I like writing this genre best of all. I think it's the believable detective work that sells a book like this. Everybody loves a good murder, as long as they catch the killer in the end, of course. 3.
There's definitely a more limited market for our work. Novelists sell lots more books than poets do, but I think that's starting to change. People are starting to read a wider variety of things, and that's good.
4.
I think it's probably the kind of book which is most difficult to write. Nobody wants to feel on show. It takes a lot of courage to write honestly about your own life. It's quite an emotional process.
5.
The main character is a time traveller. He's looking for the man who killed his father, another time traveller. It's complicated because it moves back and forth through time, but it's engaging because of the mystery element.